Hi, everyone. My name is Stephenie Wilson Peterson. I am the author of Grace's Ghosts, and I am so excited to share my book with you today and to have some amazing authors join me. I'm going to wait just a minute to let people get here. Hi, Sarah. Sarah Allen is one of the authors who's going to be joining us later on, and I'm waiting on just a few other people to get here. I am super excited about this. I guess I'll go ahead and start talking about myself while we wait for S.G. Wilson to get here. He's going to be interviewing me. This is my book. This is Grace's Ghosts. And it is something that I have been working on for a long time. And my notifications are apparently going to make noise. Oops. Hi to the Mooney family. I see you've joined us as well. And I spent quite a while writing this, and the whole process of getting published takes a long time. So seeing it in my hand and being able to share this with you today is just so exciting for me. I'm just really happy, and I'm still waiting on my the other author who's going to be interviewing me in a minute. But I think what I will do, since I wasn't waiting or planning on a little bit of extra time here, is to just go ahead and tell you a little bit about the book. If you don't know already, Grace's Ghosts is middle grade fiction. It's for kids about 8 or 9 to 12 or 13, give or take a little. And it is about a girl who lives in a very haunted town, but she's the only one who can see the many ghosts. And the ghosts are actually her friends. She has hung around the ghosts since she was a little kid, actually a baby. And one day these ghosts, who, again, they're her best friends, they come to her and they tell her that the town is cursed, and that the reason there are so many ghosts there is because they're unable to move on into the afterlife, and they ask her for her help in breaking the curse. And the story is about how she goes along and helps them to break the curse. So that's the basis of the story. And let me check here. I'm new to this StreamYard program, so let's see who's saying hello. Hi to Sonoma and Julie and Stacy and the Rife family. I see lots of people in my comments. That's really exciting. So yeah. I'm just my mom is saying hi. Always nice to see my mom. Hi, Mom. So yeah, I am really excited to share the book with you. And wow, I have so many great comments here. So yeah, while I am waiting to start my interview section, since I am waiting on another author, why don't, if anyone has any questions to start with, why don't we start there? You can type your questions in the comments and I will be able to see them. So if you have any, I'll watch for a moment. A lot of excitement. Risa says she's excited to be at the party to celebrate a great book. Thank you, Risa. Well, I think I'm going to skip forward to doing the reading. Maybe we're having some issues with people being able to join. I am not sure. But I will just skip forward to that. How excited am I on a scale of 1 to 10? Probably about 11. I've only wanted to do this since I was 6 years old, so it's a big deal. I'm very excited. I'll go ahead and do my reading from the book, and then hopefully soon I'll be able to add my other authors. So I'm not going to read to you from the very, very beginning, but it is early on in the book. On any given morning, I could expect to find On any given morning, I expected to find a spirit or two waiting for me to wake up. The dead are chattier than you'd think, especially since I was the only one in town who could talk to them. But when I roused just after daybreak on my first day of summer vacation, spirits lined my room from wall to wall. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. The sheer volume of ghosts rendered me speechless. There must have been 100 of them crammed on top of my bookcase, floating above my window seat, and pretty much filling every inch of airspace that my small gray-walled room had to offer. I gasped, sat up in my bed, grabbed my gray glasses off my nightstand. A dozen or so ghastly faces floated above my eyes, which, let me tell you, is a startling sight before the sun is fully risen. Everywhere I turned, more and more haunts wafted nearby, eagerly waiting in the early morning light. This wasn't how I expected my day to start. Puzzled, I wondered if I might still be sleeping. That's it. This is a weird dream, I thought. As I yanked my heavy gray quilt over my face, underneath the covers, I squeezed my eyes shut as tight as possible and prayed that I'd only imagined the horde of haunts in my bedroom. I didn't exactly expect my summer vacation to start this way, especially not at dawn. Inching out of the quilt, I opened my eyes just a slit and exhaled. Ghosts filled every nook and cranny of the room. I shook my head, then shook out my sheets as if it might scare the spooks away. This, of course, did not work. I knew it wouldn't, but I'm not exactly what you would call a morning person. These spirits were my friends, even if this overzealous early morning visit annoyed me a bit. I sat back up in bed. The ghosts rarely possessed this level of enthusiasm. The least I could do was listen. Before I could decide what to say to the ghost, Thomas Meyer floated to the foot of my bed. Thomas, a round-faced ghost who had been haunting Tansy longer than any of the others, died at only 14 years old. And I'm going to add S.G. Wilson to our stream. Hello. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go finish the reading portion, and then we can move on to the interview. But
okay.
All right. But hi.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
Oh, it's fine. He died at only 14 years old. He gave off a youthful vibe, though technically he was over 300 years old. Good morning, Grace. I told you a few of us would be by to visit, but judging by the expression on your face, you forgot. That's right. I'd pretty much forgotten all about our conversation as soon as I got out of the school building the day before. Thomas, however, clearly didn't forget. He looked down at me impatiently as I thought about the previous day. Right. Sorry. I just didn't expect so many of you. My cat, Midnight, appeared at the foot of my bed and stared at me with bright eyes. Grace, Thomas began, you know that you're the only one who can see us, and no one else has as long as I've been dead. Thomas nodded. I nodded. Thomas continued. I do not have to tell you that the spirits who reside in this town are ready to move on, and I think I've discovered what imprisons so many souls in Tansy. My heart skipped a beat. I'd always known something wasn't right about my town, and the spirit spent many an hour lamenting to me about being trapped in Tansy, but no one could ever give me an answer when I tried to figure out why Tansy was so different from other places. I sat straighter and tried to listen to what my friend had to say. We are not supposed to stay in this spot for eternity. We're supposed to go to the light, to heaven, to be with our loved ones who came before us. We've long suspected that we were cursed, but now we can prove it. Cursed? As in witchcraft? Is that even real? Too shocked to speak, I nodded at Thomas to continue. A few weeks ago, Polly started haunting the bank. They have a large old attic space that's been unoccupied for a few hundred years. It's a nice gathering place for the younger spirits. One of my closest friends, Polly Hansen, who passed as a preteen, wafted across the room so that she hovered next to Thomas and nodded. I found an old letter there. It was to the bankers from a woman named Lavina. In it, she promised to curse the town, Polly said. And you think she could have? Can people really curse one another? We're cursed, Grace. Why do you think so many ghosts could be in a single town? Some of us never even lived in Tansy. Several spirits only passed through the town a time or two when alive, and yet they found themselves trapped here in the afterlife, Thomas said, nodding to the permanently 6-year-old spirit of Jenny Duncan. Jenny died in a car crash when she was a kindergartner in the 1980s. She'd only been to Tansy once before her death, but she'd spent more than 30 years in the town since then. Her family had survived the crash, so she spent her afterlife missing them. Okay, I said, trying to comprehend the words. So you're telling me that magic exists and I am supposed to figure out how to undo a spell? I couldn't help but shake my head at the absurdity of it all. Of course magic exists, he told me as simply as if he told me the sky was blue or that April comes before May. My head swam as I tried to come to terms with what he said. You're cursed, trapped in Tansy. I guess that explains why I've never seen so many spirits in another city and why so many of you don't have strong ties to the town. But what do you expect me to do? A lump formed in my throat, and I swallowed hard, trying to push back my fears. Thomas's translucent face twisted into a frown, and I knew I just hurt his feelings. I took a deep breath and tried to explain myself. I'm just a kid. I know nothing about magic. I don't think I can break a curse. You're alive, Grace, Thomas replied. That gives you all the advantage. I tried to consider what Thomas told me as the galley of ghosts chimed in with their thoughts and their encouragement, which, to be honest, made it hard to think. We need your help, and you're the only one who can save us, begged Mrs. Mooney, an old woman who taught me piano back when she was 6, and when I was 6 and she was, well, alive. Please, Grace. I miss my Grammy, Jenny said, her high ponytail bobbing as she bounced. We've been waiting a long time, Grace. We need your help, pleaded Polly. We beg you, boomed Bartholomew Foster, his voice low and rattling. He was another one of my friends, a beefy kid with dark voids where his eyes should have been. Though I often wondered, I never dared to ask what had happened to his eyes. All the eyes in the room stared intently at me, full of expectation. I didn't know what they thought I could do, but they seemed desperate for my help. If they needed me, I knew I would at least have to try. I looked down, squishing my soft gray pillow and trying to think of what I could do. I want to help you, I do, but I'm having a hard time understanding all of this. Curses, magic, it's not exactly something they taught me at Tansy School. Another failure of the education system, Thomas sighed. Curses and magic are all over the Phantasma Mountains. Magic is woven into the very land upon which this town was built, but the dead are unable to do anything about it, Thomas said. And I can? My pulse quickened. You can see us and talk to us, and you're able to lift objects off the ground, talk to the living, and leave the town, Polly said, her long ringlets bouncing as she spoke. Midnight let out a long meow, rubbed his back against my leg, and sent a chill through me. I took a deep breath and looked around the room at all of the hopeful faces packed in there like sardines, begging me to help them. They didn't make it easy to say no. My stomach rumbled. As if my life isn't weird enough, now I have to figure out how to break a curse that may or may not exist. Why would this Lavina woman curse the town, I asked. Thomas answered for the crowd. Some of us had mentioned her to you before. Lavina lived just outside of town when I was alive. She was strange, and no one in the town trusted her. A flash of recognition hit me as I remembered some of the stories I'd been told about the woman. I nodded. Thomas continued. Everyone thought she was a witch. She tried to spend time with the townspeople, but we wanted nothing to do with her. Eventually, a group of concerned citizens banded together to ban her from the town. A witch? I thought, I guess they aren't just in cartoons and old movies. Thomas floated right up to me, face to face, as I listened intently. I'd always thought they were too hard on the old woman, but I saw her the day the town banished her. She was filled with rage. Her eyes were mad with fury. She screamed that we had made a mistake. Shortly after she left, I died and was unable to move on into the light. And eventually, many other souls piled up in Tansy. I always thought it was suspicious, but I had no proof. But then I found the letter, and it all fell into place, Polly chimed in. I understood why the ghost would think the scorned witch would be angry enough to curse the town of Tansy. Still, I didn't know what to do with the information. As I looked out into the crowd of gray faces, a sense of hopelessness washed over me. Heat rose up in my cheeks. How was I going to help them? Their desperation to move on to the light was obvious, but I didn't have a clue as to what to do next. Finally, I stood, accidentally passing through Mrs. Mooney, who let out a startled gasp. Ghosts don't like it when people walk through them. I wasn't a big fan of it either. It felt all cold and tingly. I gave her an apologetic shrug before I spoke. I'll try to help you guys, but can I at least eat breakfast first? The ghosts cheered so loudly that their whispers were surely heard throughout Tansy. Of course, no one even thought twice about the sound. Tansy teemed with ghostly whispers that only I could understand. To me, however, the noise was deafening. I shushed the spooks, and then Thomas asked me to meet them later that day in the field on the other end of town. I agreed and made my way downstairs without any ghostly companions, relieved to have a chance to eat my breakfast in peace. And so that's where I'm going to stop.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I liked that scene a lot.
Thank you.
When I read it originally. First of all, where did you get that cool dress, though?
I got it on Amazon, actually. I was really excited that I was able to find it's listed as a Halloween costume, but I'll take it.
Yeah, right. That's great. Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me, and congratulations.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Has it been a pretty crazy day?
It has been, yeah. I did an Instagram interview earlier today with a bookshop, little shop of stories in Georgia. And I've been just really excited all day long. You dream of this, you dream of this for so long. When it actually happens, it's pretty exciting. So,
did you, well, yeah, I mean, how long has the process really been going, though, for you? Like, when did you even start?
I think I am 3 years in, give or take. At this point, I spent, I want to say, about 4 months writing my first draft. And then there was a lot more of that of editing. Then I spent about a year going through different stages of querying and then rejection and re-editing. The book actually started off being written third person omniscient. So clearly it changed quite a bit. I got a lot of feedback that people felt distant from the character, and I took that feedback and I rewrote every word of that book to put it in a first person perspective. So, but yeah, in the end, I think it's been about 3 years since I started writing the book. So,
because she has a distinctive voice. It is very immediate. I think it was a good choice to make it first. So
thank you. Yeah. In the end, I think it was better that I made that choice, but it was a hard pill to swallow when I kept hearing that same feedback. They're right, but I don't want to rewrite every word of my story. It's a lot of work. So
how did you do that? Did you do the initial find and replace, or then go through, or?
I started with looking for anything that was. I started with a find and replace, and there are lots of terms you have to look for. My character's name, her, she, but then there are lots of times where those words are still going to stay in the story, and then a lot of the sentences needed restructuring. So I did have to go through one word at a time eventually, but I started that way and then had to go through and actually restructure a lot of the sentences. A lot of things didn't make sense because it had been omniscient. So my character wouldn't know things that were in other people's heads, that kind of thing. So it was.
It's just psychologically, I'm sure, just to find a place would kind of be a good way to start.
It was. I started there and then I went back there at the end after I thought I was done. And even then, by the time my editor had it, there were a couple of times where she's like, why does it say Grace did blah, blah, blah instead of I? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's like 6 versions back. And apparently in 50,000 words, I missed that.
Yeah, it's pretty understandable. Yeah. Well, great. And where is, in your mind, Tansy, the village where she lives?
To me, Tansy is somewhere in the Alps. But where, I don't know. It's kind of a made up place. But I spent some time in the Alps as a teenager, and that is visually what is in my mind. But it's just a place, a magical place.
Right. Where are you from originally, and where are you now?
I grew up in a town called Port Orchard, Washington, just outside of Seattle. And I currently live in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And in between, I was in Texas. And when I was in the Alps, I spent a summer living in Germany. But but my host family had a house in the Austrian Alps. So we spent a lot of the weekends down there when I was staying with them. So.
Yeah. Well, great. Was there anything that helped inspire the book from that experience of being there? I mean, are there?
Yeah, you know, I think part of why my brain put it there is because the house we stayed in, they had been there in their family for 300 years or something like that, multiple hundreds of years, been passed down. And the first thing they told me is, "Oh, you're in the room with the ghosts." And I was like, "The what?" And I had no experiences, but that is just the family just was very like flat out, "Oh, that is the haunted room." By the way, have fun with that.
Yeah.
17-year-old kid never had left her home before this. And, "Oh, you're staying in the haunted house."
Yeah. So, did you have any experiences there?
I didn't there. I didn't. I was kind of hoping I would. Half hoping I would and half hoping I wouldn't. You know, it was. But I didn't experience anything that would have made me think it was haunted. At other times in my life I had, but not in that house. But just that setting felt like the kind of place something magical was going to happen. You know.
Right. That's cool. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, were there any other inspirations for the book? Because you have the ghost angle.
Sorry, you cut out there. Sorry, what did you ask?
Yeah, sorry. I was just wondering if there were any other that inspired the book between the ghosts and the magic.
There were any other what that inspired it? Sorry, you keep cutting on the same word.
Anything else that inspired it?
Anything else?
Yeah. Any other inspirations?
Mostly it was just that this character kind of followed me around in my mind for a while. So it wasn't any like life experience or anything like that. It's just, I had this picture in my mind of this little girl who didn't have a whole lot of living friends, but was just surrounded by ghosts, but they weren't bad. They were just her friends. And what would that be like to see this whole world that no one else could see? And she just kind of followed me around in my mind for a few weeks. And finally I had to start writing her down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, as far as the ghosts go, who, I mean, it was really powerful. The whole idea of this entire village of ghosts, just sort of stuck there. But one thing I was just thinking about as you were reading is, who is your favorite of those ghosts?
Well, Midnight is definitely my favorite, the cat. I love the idea. My little stuffed Midnight back there. I love the idea of being able to bring your pet everywhere, and if no one else could see your pet, then you can't get in trouble for having them with you. But for the human ghosts, I think it would probably be Polly. She's just such a sweet friend to Grace, and I love the dynamic that Polly kind of played the big sister role to Grace when she was younger, but Grace grew up and Polly stayed the same age. And so I really enjoy, and with all of the ghosts, really that dynamic shifts, but only for one end, because the ghosts aren't going to grow up anymore. So
right. Yeah. They're stuck. When you were thinking about the ghosts, did you what kind of thought were you putting into the sort of ghost rules? If how in the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze, there's a lot.
Yeah. They all have their own different.
They have a little limited touching ability.
Right. I just. The thought process was mostly, I wanted them to be able to interact with the world somewhat. The things that they do earlier in the book, it talks about, they would steal a pencil from a kid who was bullying Grace. And I wanted them to be able to like enter her world in a way where maybe others didn't know what was happening, but Grace sure did. And it helped her to know her friends were looking out for her. But I wanted to be sure that they needed Grace, right? And I didn't want them to be any level of you give them too much ability and it might start seeming scarier than I wanted them to seem, because I wanted them to be able to seem like they were her friends. And if they can do too much, I felt like that might make them kind of creepy. So,
That's a good point. Yeah.
So,
well, I was also curious about the witchcraft on the same level. What kind of thought went into, what the witches can do? There's, well, actually, I hope I'm not ruining anything, but
yeah. Well, without giving too much away, there's a couple of different sets of magical people in the book, and with Lavina, I wanted her to be a sympathetic villain. I didn't want her to be a bad guy as much as she is someone who maybe didn't have a great grasp on what she was doing. And so I wanted to have, even magic is imperfect maybe. And, good people make mistakes. And so that was a lot of the thought process there was, I just wanted her to be a flawed human and not just evil villain. And so her magic definitely rotated around that idea that you could, maybe you make a mistake that you didn't realize was going to have quite as big an impact as it did. For the other magical group, I don't want to give too much away. Their abilities definitely stand on just, I wanted to feel like the whole region, we talked in the section I read, it talks about the Phantasma Mountains have magic within them, and that there's different bits of magic that were given to each of the people for different reasons from the region that they were born, and that it's just this very, very magical place. And so there are different types of abilities that in my mind, had reasons they all came from the land, but I don't want to give too much away. So I think I'll leave that there, but.
Yeah, sure. No, well, it was very intriguing. And it also, I mean, do you have a sequel in mind or anything? Because there's a lot of rich mythology and world building in this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's not impossible. I have some ideas, but I also have a lot of other things going on right now, a lot of other books in the works, and we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, okay.
I could tell stories about Grace forever, but in the world of publishing, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, back to the ghost though. I also liked Midnight a lot, and I was wondering, if are you more of a ghost cat person or more of a ghost dog person?
Well, I am a ghost dog person.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering. Well, I was just going to say, well, why? I mean, what is a dog?
Well, I mean, personally, in life, dogs have always been very sweet to me, and it just fits my personality more to have the dog who loves you every moment.
Right.
But I like the ghost cat for storytelling, because I think the ghost dog would literally stay right next to you. If one of my dogs came back as a ghost, they'd be in your face all the time. Yeah. Drooling with a tennis ball for all of eternity, versus the cat can kind of slip in and out, and that fits the cat's personality. And but true. My 7-year-old used to say that a ghost dog haunted our house that when we lived in Texas. So who knows? Wow. He swore, he's like, there's a black dog ghost and he lives on your bed, Mama. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about Lavina and the complexity of her, and it also got me, there's a few kind of more, emotionally complex relationships in the book, like her relationship with her mother. And I was just wondering if that was kind of a challenge to write, or there's also a kind of intense bullying relationship that goes on in the book. with a separate character, of course. But, I was just wondering if, what that was like to write.
Yeah, it was definitely hard. For me, it was hard to write. I'm not going to say her mom isn't they have a complicated relationship. It's not that her mom's a bad person, but they definitely butt heads a lot. And I honestly, that was not an experience I had. My mom and I think maybe there was a week when I was 12 where we didn't get along, but for the most part, I've always been close with my mom. But I know a lot of people who weren't blessed with those kinds of relationships, and just how hard it is, and how many kids have, in a much less complicated way than I see the dad and my parents don't believe me. But kids whose parents don't always see eye to eye with them, and that can be really hard on a child. And so dealing with that in a way that, I'm different from who my parents expect me to be. That's something a lot of kids are going to deal with, but dealing with it in a way that's ghosts the magic makes it a lot more fun. So
sure.
So and then the bullying character, that definitely, I think we've all had that experience with some childhood bully that just was not our favorite person. And I know a lot of kids deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So it was something I wanted to touch on. So and I think it's my turn to switch to interviewing you at this point, right? We are. Yes.
Sure. I did have a couple of just one other quick question though.
Okay.
I mean, what was your favorite part of the book to write?
My favorite part of the book to write. I can't give it away, but
that's true.
There's a scene at the end that it was both fun and heartbreaking to write, to the point where I knew it was coming, and I kind of wrote around it because I just knew it was going to be such a big thing for me. And it's probably the biggest moment of the book. You've read it, you probably know what I'm talking about. But it was to the point where when I did finally make myself write that scene, I had tears streaming down my face, because it was just the pieces fit together, and it got there. And that was such a cool feeling as an author to be like, I did it. I put it all together how I wanted to, and now it's complete. And I think that was probably the most rewarding part to write.
Oh, that's good. Well, great.
So, well, thank you. So now, can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, it's so nice of you to offer this up to us. And I know everybody else is probably queued up. But yeah, it's Me Versus the Multiverse. And Pleased to Meet Me is the series is called Me Versus the Multiverse. And this one is Pleased to Meet Me. There's going to be a second one. And
that's exciting.
You could even pull off a third one, hopefully, but I don't know.
Oh, that's very exciting. Yeah. I love the cover art. I really do. It's so colorful.
Yeah. It's this, what's his name? I've talked to him a little bit. Alexi somebody or other. I should try and figure that out. But anyway, he did a good job. So, it's about a kid who goes to a convention for his duplicates from parallel Earths, and they all kind of hang out, but then something goes awry, and he's basically kind of the he's not very popular on his Earth with other kids, but then he finds he's kind of like the loser of this convention of his own duplicates. But then he there's of course the evil version of himself, because there always has to be in these types of stories,
right? And
he it's only the one who has figured it out and has to stop him. So that's basically it. Yeah. But
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you want to do a reading? Do you want to read a few pages? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and again, this is great of you to offer this up.
I'm excited to have you.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I guess I'll just try to read part of the first, the opening, and see how far I get. Okay, so chapter 1, The Origami Stalker. So this one time when I was 6, I went sleepwalking and peed in my tub of Legos. I never told a soul. No one in the world could have possibly known. But 7 years later, the ugly truth was right there, scrawled on a note inside an origami octopus. I found it first thing in the morning, hanging by its arms from the sill of my bedroom window. The note read, "Hi, me. Yes, you. You're me, and I'm you. Don't believe me? Here's proof. This is stuff only we would know. After peeing in our Lego container while we were sleepwalking, we were 6, we dumped the pieces in the dishwasher. Lego Yoda's lightsaber broke the dishwasher pump, and we got in serious trouble with Mom and Dad. Number 2, since age 3, we've had a recurring nightmare about an otter forcing us to do push-ups and climb ropes in an army boot camp. Number 3, we'd never fess up to anyone that greeting card commercials, pet adoption pop-up stands, and the friendship pictures on Girl Scout cookie boxes always make us a little weepy. So do most Pixar movies, except maybe planes. Anyway, learn more about what we have in common by coming to the Janus Hotel, South, any time today. I'll explain more soon. Ours sincerely, me." Though I'd never seen this note before in my life, it was written in my handwriting, not the neat writing I attempted for teachers, but the unreadable scrawl I used the rest of the time. Well, and I'll stop it there, I guess.
I love it.
Oh, right. He's a little freaked out because he's also an origami expert, and nobody has done this fold like he has. So it makes it even stranger. And then the day gets stranger from there. So
I love just how off the wall that is. That's so much fun, and in addition to writing for this age group, I have 3 kids who are reading middle grade right now. So I know that they would all just love that concept, and they'll be excited when it is available for purchase. When is that date? When is your book?
It'll be August 4th.
August 4th. Yeah. That's coming up, and you haven't had to you haven't been pushed by the COVID delays.
Well, no, I mean, and again, I wanted to also thank you for trying to organize that reading we were going to do in June.
Yeah.
As well as potentially here in Austin and Dallas and stuff.
Yeah. But it's maybe we can try again when the world goes back to normal.
Well, the thing is, Texas is opening a little earlier than I think is maybe wise, but way to roll it out. It's going to be in sort of steps, but it seems like other states are doing it with more steps than Texas is. So
Texas does seem to be taking a less conservative approach to safety measures there, but we'll see how that works.
But I was going to say I haven't been too affected yet, but who knows what'll be going on in August when this is out, and what kind of what stores will be open and all that jazz. So
sure. Hopefully, I for the whole world and for you, I hope that by August things are a little bit more sane.
Definitely. And I was going to ask, have you been dealing with it all okay?
We're chugging along here.
I didn't know you had 3, so that's a lot to be sheltering in place.
It is definitely different. We're a very active family. We're busy multiple nights a week. My daughter is a competitive dancer, so she lives at the dance studio, not literally, but it feels like it. And she's very much used to being able to be there a lot. That's really hard on her. My oldest has a lot of medical issues, and switching medical appointments to Skype is weird. Things like that. But we're doing all right. My kids are homeschooled, so the switch, while educationally it was easier on them, I think, than a lot of other people know. Emotionally, it's not like we stayed home all the time, but at least, yeah. So tell me, how did you get the idea for this book?
I think just from a lifetime of reading comic books and the like, I used to read old issues of the Justice League, and they they had this concept of Earth 2 was where the World War II heroes were, and then they kind of revamped them in the 60s. So they called that Earth 1. There was like an old Green Lantern and a new Green Lantern and an old Flash.
Right.
So they would, but then the two groups would sometimes, they figured out that they existed across the multiverse, and they would meet up and just hang out and have adventures together, unlike every year or so. And but there would always be a few pages where it was just them hanging out, chatting, and that's what I really loved. I couldn't even tell you what their adventures were when they had to fight.
Right.
I thought they were out. So I wanted to kind of recapture that, and then I mean, there are other things like in Star Trek. There's a mirror universe. And
right.
I think my kids and I started watching The Flash around the time I was writing this, and they got into that whole parallel universe thing. So
yeah.
After I finished the book, at least the first couple of drafts, then I've learned about Rick and Morty. My kids were a little too young at the time, but there's a lot of multiverse stuff in that show that's really funny.
Okay, that's not one I've seen, but I think your book sounds like so much fun. Is there a particular version of your main character's self in the multiverse that he butts heads with the most? Is it like different aspects of his own personality, or? Yeah,
it's funny. I happened to print these out for something else at some point, and I just grabbed them. Here's the main. These are some of the other cool illustrations that Alexi did. This is the main character, and he starts calling himself they call themselves different me's, because it's called MeCon, and that's how they differentiate themselves by different. So he's average me, which makes him mad. They call him average me, and then this is juvenile hall me. He kind of has like a fawn type thing going, and this is Ren Fair me. He's kind of maybe from a medieval world, although people don't really know if he's just in costume, And but the one he has the most trouble with is Meticulous Me, who, and this is also dates. This is how long I've been writing the book. I was really into Hamilton when I started writing this. So he's sort of from like a world where, for some reason, they all still dress like Hamilton, basically. So they never get that outfit, But anyway, he butts heads with him the most. He's kind of the me who runs the convention of me's, but he turns out to be don't have the best intentions. So he's and so they have and just his personality is they have totally different personalities. Because he's very
I think it's great, and the art is amazing. You're so lucky to work with such a great illustrator. Did you get to give feedback at all, or
just a little bit? There's actually a just little things here and there. Like we actually, if I happen to have this one is Monk Me, and we went through a few phases because I never really thought that much. I just wrote like Monk Me, and we actually I had to do a little bit of research afterwards to help him. Because I had in mind more of a Buddhist monk, and he wrote more of a Catholic monk or something. Okay.
I could see. Yeah, that's well. Oh, I think it's great. How has the publishing experience been for you? How long did it take you to get from your idea to your publication?
It's funny you mentioned voice, and because I originally wrote mine in second person. Because I thought it'd be kind of funny, since everybody calls themselves me's, I thought it'd be funny if it were just from the perspective of you,
Right.
And my agent liked it, the guy who eventually became my agent, because that took a while to get an agent.
Right,
but he sent it around, and nobody else really liked that. They found it very confusing. So at least it was kind of like, my agent and we sort of passed a litmus test with each other and realized we were on the same wavelength, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Then basically, I had to go back and change it to first person. So that's why.
Right. I think that's cool though. It's interesting to try second person.
Yeah, well,
it's so rarely done.
I thought maybe this would be the one time where it wouldn't seem like some cheap gimmick. I mean, not that I think when people do it, they have a good reason usually.
Yeah.
But Anyway, so but it's something you have to be kind of careful with. You can't has to be executed the right way, and
definitely. Well, it had to be fair. I mean, you got your agent with it, right? So it's a worthwhile step anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I have just so enjoyed hearing about your book. I'm going to add Karah to the conversation now, and you are welcome to stay or welcome to come back at the end, however you would like to do it.
Yeah, I have some kids to get to too, but I'll be
okay. All right. Oh, well, it was so great talking with you, SG. And hello, Karah. I'm trying to get your mic on. It can't. Oh, you muted yourself, Karah. Yeah, you're still muted. Well, technology. Let me see.
Well, maybe I'll see if that'll help.
There we go. Has that worked?
We have it. We have it. Okay.
Yeah. Just tried unplugging and replugging, and that seemed to work. So there we go.
Okay. Hi, Karah. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm very well. How are you? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been such an amazing day for me.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's so exciting.
Thank you so much. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your book?
So my book is A Wolf for a Spell, which, there we go. And so this is the ARC, which I got a couple months ago. So it's being published on September 22nd from Knox Books for Young Readers. And it is not quite a retelling. It's kind of based in the world of Russian fairy tales. So it's told from 3 points of view. Two of them are kind of staple characters in Russian fairy tales. So one of them being Baba Yaga, who is kind of the witch who lives in the woods, and lots of people fear her for kind of eating children.
Right.
And then one is the Grey Wolf, who in a particular fairy tale helps the prince kind of on his journey. And then the other is a girl from kind of a village by the forest. So it's all these three characters interacting, and the wolf and the witch in particular having to kind of team up to help thwart this evil czar.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Can I ask how did you become interested in Russian fairy tales?
Yeah, so I have been ever since I was a kid. So my mom is Russian and Polish, and I didn't actually know my grandparents growing up because my grandmother died before I was born, but my grandfather died when I was quite young, and so I think it was like a way of her, carrying on that family heritage and pride, and so even though we didn't like speak Russian or anything, there was always an interest and an excitement around going to kind of Russian cultural events, right. Dance shows, music, art exhibits, and Russian fairy tales was a part of that. So I had a collection of them growing up, which I read kind of all the time. And and what I love about them in particular is that sense of having a lot of the same characters over and over versus Cinderella has her story and Snow White has her story. But in Russian fairy tales, you tend to meet Baba Yaga over and over. And there's a prince, Ivan Tsarevich, who pops up kind of, and it's not clear whether he's the same guy every time or whether Baba Yaga is the same person every time. It could be that the name is kind of a placeholder, but you meet these same people over and over, and they're always a little bit different. They're always going on new adventures, and I liked this idea that these characters who don't necessarily interact could interact in this story. A friend of mine, when I was explaining it to him, he said, okay, so it's like the Russian fairy tale cinematic universe.
I love it. That sounds, the whole concept is great. I don't know Russian fairy tales well, but just the concept, fairy tales in general, I've always loved the different retellings and bringing them into different stories. And I think it's so fun that you were able to do that. Did you want to do a short reading from your book?
Yeah, maybe just a quick one, just because
Okay.
I'm still kind of in edits, so.
Okay. Yeah. I understand.
Not coming out until September.
Yeah,
So
you got time.
yeah, so this is weird. I've never done this before, so bear with me.
Oh, you'll be great. You'll be great.
Here we go. So, A Wolf for a Spell, Chapter 1. Fear sank its jaws into Zima as she recognized the smell of magic. She pressed her nose to the ground and sniffed again. Like moonlight and decay, it burrowed into her nose, slippery and sinister. She shook her head and huffed to clear out her nostrils. A shiver rippled through Zima's silvery gray fur. She knew what the smell meant. The witch was nearby. It almost seemed like the witch was following them. This was the third time Zima had smelled magic in the past 3 days. Her little brother Potok sneezed and scratched his paw at his snout. Together, Zima and Potok backed away, out of the cloud of scent and back behind a clump of spiky evergreen trees. But Lieto, Potok's littermate, kept his nose to the ground. He turned to Zima with his ears back and fur on end. "We should get Grom," he said. It was the right thing for him to say. Grom was their older brother and the leader of the pack. He would know what to do about a witch. But why did they need Grom? Zima was the second oldest. Surely Lieto could trust her to handle the witch without Grom's help. Potok let out a whimper and pawed at the dirt. He clearly wanted to get away from the smell as much as she did. She tried to take on an air of authority as she voiced her disagreement. "We will be safer going to the home place," she said, referring to the glen they'd marked as their territory, where they'd sleep for the next few days. "We go back the way we came, to the river, and follow it back. It would take much longer to go that way, of course, but it would give them a wide berth around the witch, and it would keep them clear of the dangers of the forest. Towering hogweed plants that could kill a wolf with a single touch, unexpected shafts leading to caves that could trap a wolf for days, poisoned streams that gurgled with the waters of death. Navigating the forest was dangerous business." She waited for Lieto to give the signal that he would follow her lead. But he didn't. His body language spoke clearer than words. "I want to call for Grom." He wanted Grom to lead them. Zima stared Lieto down, trying to shake away the hurt that clung to her chest. But instead, he raised his nose to the air. With his jaw jutting forward, he prepared to howl. Before he could, a rustle ahead made Zima's ears prick. She nudged Lieto and pointed with her snout. He swallowed the howl. Together, they turned to peer at something beyond the grove where they stood. A figure was just visible, lurking between the trees. The witch? But there was no smell of magic. Zima crept closer and crouched behind a large rock, with Lieto following close behind. His tail began to wag as he caught the scent Zima tasted on the breeze. Potok's nervous breathing pulsed in the clearing behind them, where he kept his distance from the danger. It was no witch. The thing, moving through the woods mere whiskers away, was a human girl.
I like it. I like it a lot. I love your descriptions. You really bring the reader into the story.
Thank you.
And I can really see kids enjoying that.
Thank you.
Build tension well. It's exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
So, if I remember correctly, you live in New Zealand? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
That's exciting. But your book is being released in the American market at the same time, or how does that work?
Yeah, so oh yeah, what was the?
Oh, just I was wondering how that works, if you're releasing in both New Zealand and in the US at the same time, or how that works.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm American originally. I was born in Kentucky, and I moved to New Zealand in 2011. So I've lived here for 9 years. I became a dual citizen last year. And the New Zealand publishing market is very, very small. Like, I mean, it's a country of 4.5 million people. So, you can kind of publish just here if you like. But that was kind of never the goal for me. I think I always wanted to get published in the American market. Right. A friend of mine phrased it as that it's easier to flow downstream than upstream. And so he was saying, if you get it published, manage to get it published in the States, it'll surely come here, versus if you get it published in New Zealand, and you don't know whether it'll go to the States or not. And definitely, like, New Zealand has incredible authors. I mean, like, we have Elizabeth Knox, who writes for children, and Margaret Mahy is a classic. Like, she's always cited as being like one of the great children's authors. And then Eleanor Catton won the Man Booker Prize a couple of years ago. So, like, really amazing environment here. And but yeah, so I just I was always just querying agents, the normal process, and that took a long time, as is to be expected. And then yeah, so it was actually not that different from, I think, most people's processes, which is really nice. I guess it's like video calls and things just makes everything so much easier. So aside from the time difference, it's like it's 9 a.m. here. So that takes some getting used to. Like, oftentimes I'll have to get up at like 6 a.m. in order to call during people's work days and stuff. But yeah, aside from the time difference, it was kind of the same. It was like I signed with my agent, and she and I just had our normal conversations, and then we edited and sold, and I think the publisher was glad to know that I visit the States regularly. Like, I come back to visit family at least once a year, and so I think they were glad to hear that, and because it meant that I'd be around to help promote it in the States as needed. So that was probably a point of difference, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's such a cool process, and how I think traveling the world and experiencing different places is just a great thing for people to do. So I think it's awesome that you can have a little bit of your life in the US and have your life in New Zealand, and
for sure
experience both.
Yeah, I've been very lucky.
That's awesome. Do you think that your experiences living in 2 different countries, or possibly more, I don't know your whole story, but do you think that worked its way into your story at all?
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it really, but it definitely has changed my work ethic for sure. Like, so even if it's not directly a theme in the story, I don't know if I don't know how different my writing process would have been had I not done the move abroad thing, because it was like I came here and I kind of expected to only be here for maybe a year, and then I met my now husband, and that kind of extended things, and it was hard. Like, it was really, really hard getting adjusted. All these, it's like you make your whole new friendship groups and things like that, but just all these little things, like you can't find your favorite cereal anymore, or you can't, you have to kind of relearn all these things that you took for granted. And food is kind of the thing that, like, of the Americans or like English expats, or you meet people from all over the world here. And food is always the thing that people kind of talk about, is like, oh man, I really miss pudding cups or whatever. And it's always like these random things that you don't think you'll miss. But so, and I had a really hard time adjusting. It took me probably at least a year, probably 2, to feel like I had my feet under me and feel like I had a life. And so it was that sticking through it, and that kind of slog of like, okay, I like this relationship I'm in. I like this place where I'm living. I just have to kind of keep going day by day, and just kind of keep trying to make things better, and keep trying to see things through. And and so I think it actually was that kind of one day at a time, just manage what I can, just improve what I can kind of work ethic that I had to build up by living abroad, that helped me with the actual writing of the book.
That's really awesome. And I think work ethic, you don't realize just how hard it's going to be until you try to do it. So
yeah, for sure.
It goes a long way. I think that's part of why a lot of people fail in the publishing process, is because it's really hard work, and you just, it sounds like it's fun, and it is fun, but
yeah, definitely a reason for that you come across a lot, for sure. I think you meet a lot of people who want to have written a book more than they want to write a book.
Yes. I saw this post someone shared the other day, and somebody had written a list of easy ways to make money. And writing a book was on there, and I was like, no, that's not an easy way to make money. It's not easy. You're not going to make a lot of money, but okay, that's what you think.
Yeah, exactly.
You're setting up some really bad expectations for people there.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, well, think here. Do you have a favorite character in your book?
I think I do have to say I love the witch Baba Yaga. Like, she's just so interesting in stories in general, because she's so unpredictable, and I really liked that she's kind of unusual for a witch in fairy tales, because you never quite know in the fairy tale that you're reading whether she's going to be good or bad. Like, sometimes she'll help the hero by giving them kind of magic trinkets to help them on their journey, but then sometimes she'll be genuinely threatening and very scary. And it's like, this is not children's literature at all, but like in the John Wick movies, in the John Wick movies, it's like he's this like world's greatest assassin, and apparently his like assassin's nickname is Baba Yaga, which I find kind of hilarious, because they translate it in the movies as the boogeyman, which is kind of true, because like she is kind of threatened to be someone who eats children, but I just found that such a funny thing. But and so I loved that ambiguity of like, she might be good or she might be bad, and it was really fun to write her, because she gets really grumpy about things, but then also she is kind of trying to do the right thing, but she's also trying to do kind of a thing that's kind of quite self-interested, but it is still the right thing. And so, yeah, she was really fun to play with for that reason.
Oh, well, it sounds like it would. I love characters like that. I like the witch. The witch embraces ghosts is actually a more complex character than good or bad that way. I think Baba Yaga, it sounds like, leans more to the bad than Lavina does and embraces ghosts. But it was definitely fun to write this character where there are layers to who they are and why they tick the way they do, rather than just writing very clear-cut villains and heroes. I definitely enjoy characters with a little more depth like that.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I can't wait to read about her. I'm really excited.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to read yours. You said it's September, is that correct?
That's right, September 22nd.
22nd. That's awesome. That's close, but not so close that hopefully this quarantine stuff doesn't affect it as much.
Yeah. We'll see.
I know things aren't quite as bad down there as they are in the States. Or did I hear there's no more COVID left in not quite, but definitely getting close. Like I think we've reduced it to having like less than 10 new cases a day. Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. That's compared to how it is here. It's I mean, small population, so that makes a big difference. But we've been on. I think they said it was one of the world's strictest lockdowns for 5 weeks ish. So that definitely probably makes a difference. Well, I really enjoyed having you on my stream.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on your book, and I can't wait to read it.
This is such a great way to celebrate your book birthday. So congratulations, and thank you for having all of us.
Thank you. It's been great. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
And I pronounce your last name Schuermann. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it is so great to have you here tonight. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about your book.
Yes, I have quite a delay here, but are you hearing me okay?
I'm hearing you just fine. You appear to be responding on my screen pretty quickly. I don't know.
Okay. Yes, so my book is A Boy Called Preacher. Are you seeing my book here now?
Yep, I can see your book. I see you. I see your book.
It's really delayed.
I'm sorry.
I don't know why. But yes, so I'm not going to look at myself because it's distracting. I'm going to look at you.
Okay.
So it's A Boy Called Preacher. And it's about a 12-year-old boy who...
Oh. Hi, Aiden. Sorry, that just popped up on the screen there. Okay. Continue.
A 12-year-old boy who did not expect to be man of the farm at the age of 12 years old. And so it takes place in 1943 on a wheat farm in Kansas. And he finds himself in charge of a wheat farm.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's a lot of responsibility for a kid.
Yes, it is.
Go
ahead.
Continue. I just is there a specific experience that you went through that inspired you to write this story or anything like that?
Yes. In fact, here is my dedication for my dad, who as a young boy stepped up and became a farmer.
Okay.
And so this is actually based on the true story. It is fiction, but it's based on the true story of my dad's childhood.
Okay. I thought it seemed like the kind of story that had to be something close to you. That's very cool. It's very interesting. What a weight on a child's shoulders. Did you have a reading you wanted to do?
Well, I would love to read part of chapter 1.
Okay.
If you can hear me okay, I'm very delayed here, so I hear myself about 30 seconds after I've said something. But if you're hearing me okay,
I'm hearing you just great.
Okay. Chapter 1. The meanest tractor mechanic ever. I had only been to Eldon Dunn's place one time before and swore I would never go back. The creeps. That's what the man gave me, the real live creeps. But there I stood on his farmhouse porch with my dog. I don't think Deke wanted to be there either because his tail was real still. Eldon Dunn, the meanest tractor mechanic in Kansas, maybe the meanest anywhere in the world. What you doing here, boy? His voice bellowed and sounded as rough as the bottom of Harley's gravel pit. He was big and scary. I just wanted to get out of there. Can you fix my tractor magneto? It won't fire. Gotta get the plowing done. Somehow I managed to hold on to the heavy tractor part with one hand while gripping Deke's collar tight with the other. You're the Wilcox boy, ain't you? He spit right past me. So where's your old man? Gone, sir, I shrugged, since February. Figures, he stared at me. What's your name? Preacher, Johnny, I stammered. The thick glasses above Eldon Dunn's scraggly beard were so smeary, I wondered how he could even see me. His glasses slid down his nose. He worked them to his eyes by tilting his head back, scrunching his face, flaring his nostrils, and moving his lips back and forth. His cheek bulged with a wad of tobacco. Brown juice oozed out of the corner of his mouth and dribbled down his chin. He spit on the porch, splattering my boots. I lifted the magneto a little higher. Can you fix it? He wiped his mouth with his hairy arm, never taking his eyes off me. Jagged scars marked his arms from his wrists to his elbows like he'd been wrestling bears or mountain lions. Can't do it, he said, folding his arms across his belly. You can't? Too busy. He spit again, this time missing my boots by a hair. Them boys who helped me joined up after Pearl Harbor. Can you fix it another time, sir? Maybe, he grinned. Or did he snarl? I couldn't tell. Maybe next week. Deke jerked backward and let loose a low growl. Quit pulling, Deke. Guess we both wanted out of there. Eldon Dunn slammed the door and I stuffed the magneto back in my knapsack. Within seconds, we peeled out of the farmyard, pedaled so fast I thought my legs would fall off. But Deke sped right past me. Just in time, too, because I heard Dunn's dogs barking on their way home from a run in the fields. They were as mean and snarly as Eldon Dunn himself, and I didn't want to see them either. The bike tires kicked up dust into my eyes. Running ahead of me, Deke's coat turned the same color as the dirt on the ground. We need rain, Deke. He paid no attention to me. He didn't have to care about the creek and the cattle pond getting lower by the day, or the plowing getting done. As the new man of the house, that was my job, my problem. We reached the Holcomb place and pulled into the drive. I dropped my bike, sat on the ground, and leaned back against the old cottonwood tree. It sure felt hot for June, more like July. Deke knew how to cool off. He lapped the water in the horse tank, then slid his whole body right in. The freshly painted house and barn nearly glistened in the sun. If a county had a contest for the nicest wheat farm around, the Holcombs would have won it hands down. Lots of money helped and hired hands. Deke popped his head up out of the water and howled at a high-pitched sound. Yep, Earl Floyd Holcomb's whistle. He waved from the loft in the barn. My best friend could whistle louder than anyone else. On my way down, Earl Floyd called, then disappeared inside. He ran up and kicked my foot with his boot. Hey, he said, where have you been? Took the magneto to Eldon Dunn. I said, this would get a reaction out of Earl Floyd. He stopped in his tracks and stared at me. Are you a lunatic? You want to die? I ignored him and I added, told him he'd best get to it straight away. He said, yes, sir, Mr. Wilcox. Earl Floyd plopped himself down, wiped his arm across the brow, and brushed the sweaty hair out of his eyes. Sure, and I'm a monkey's uncle. He scratched under his arms like an orangutan. You really went to Dunn's by yourself? Had to. Mom was too busy, and my little brother would have been too scared. So I just went alone. Dunn said he didn't have time to fix it. That guy is a crazy old coot. I hear there's a whole cemetery full of people that he's scared to death. Earl Floyd always exaggerated. My dad used to say the Holcombs never let the truth stand in the way of a good story. He hesitated and looked over his shoulder. I've been hiding. Dad keeps giving me chores to do. Like what? I said. Feeding cats. So I'll stop there.
Well, I love it. It reminds me a lot of the books that I read growing up. It has a very timeless feel. I liked it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. The complete chapter 1 is on my website. And but I'd love to give a shout out, if I could, illustrator.
Oh, it's a beautiful cover.
Thank you. My husband is my illustrator, Stan Schuermann. And he did several drawings. Can you see that okay?
Yes, it's very clear. It's very
and so
nice.
This is Eldon Dunn. This is who I just described.
Okay.
And he is a scary looking fellow.
Yes.
And in this scene, Preacher and Earl Floyd find out that they are able to shoot jackrabbits and turn them in for the war effort and earn 50 cents a rabbit. And so they're very excited about that. And this is actually true. This is what my dad did to earn extra money in 1943. And this is Deke.
Oh, I love it.
It looks like he tangled with a bull snake. So that's another story, but he's a fabulous dog. But
I love it.
That's my shout out to Stan Schuermann.
How wonderful was that to work with your husband?
It was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it, and we're working together on some other writing projects as well.
Yeah, that's great. So did you pitch your book as an author illustrator, or were you able to bring him on later?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Brought him on later.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful that you were able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's an artist as well, but he's a video game artist. So what he does doesn't translate to what I'm doing, except for that he did help me with like my book trailer and things like that. He was able to make my book trailer a lot fancier than I would have, for sure. But I think it's very cool that you were able to work with your husband like that. Can you tell a little bit about the projects you're working on with him, or is that not something you can do just yet?
Yes. I've written a picture book that he is illustrating.
Wonderful.
Dance. It is not sold yet.
Okay.
I have not submitted it yet.
Okay. Well, that's very exciting.
Very exciting.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm gonna be moving on to speak with Arianne now, but I loved having you, and I cannot wait to read your book. Thank you so much.
May 16th.
That's so soon. So soon. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Arianne, and a little one with you today.
I decided I'll bring my baby, so this is fun.
Oh, how old is he?
He is 8 months old.
Oh, that's a fun age, but not an easy age to try to get things done. I know. I remember those days.
Yeah, but as long as he's got his pacifier in, he's usually pretty good. Better than my other kids were, for sure.
Yeah. Some of them are
chill.
easier than others, for sure.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, he's not as good of a sleeper at this point, but he is very happy during the day. See if we can.
Adorable. Oh, my baby is 7 and my oldest is 13. So
okay.
Seeing the little ones.
Yeah.
It's been a while for me. So I have read your book. I love it.
Oh, thanks.
In my head somewhere. It's hard to point on screen.
Yeah, awesome.
I loved it. It was hilarious.
Well, thank you.
My 11-year-old, as soon as I hid it away because I got it for her for Easter, and so I didn't read it when I first got it, and then she darn her wanted to read her own gift, and I couldn't get it away from her for a while because she would not put the thing down. And
that's the best to hear.
So you got the seal of approval of my kid anyway. So.
And Grace's Ghost sounds fantastic. I'm ordering it from my independent bookstore. So.
Oh, wonderful. I love supporting the independent bookstores, especially right now. I know this is a hard time for everyone. So I think it's great that you're able to do that your indie is set up in a way where you can still order from them. That's great.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's really good.
Where are you located?
It's a little town called Ridgecrest, and it is kind of by Death Valley. It's pretty isolated from any big city.
Yeah,
so there's not much.
But you have an Indian town. That's awesome. I know a lot of small towns. I'm having headphone issues. Sorry, I keep falling out.
Yeah, we have one indie, and then I've traveled down to LA to visit some of the indies down there because there's a lot of really great ones down there. But yeah, that's ours. Red Rock Books. Where are you from?
I am just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
So I'm not from is a complicated question. I grew up outside of Seattle in a town called Port Orchard. I lived in Dallas in between, and now I'm here. So that's not an easy question for me, but Raleigh's the easy answer.
Okay, where are you living? I guess I should say.
Yeah, well, for a lot of people it's the same thing, but yeah, I live just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, and I really like it here. So,
yeah. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, how has your debut birthday been?
It's been amazing. It's such a great feeling to know that this thing you've worked on for so long is in the world, and regardless of all the chaos that's happening right now, it's still out there. And it has made me really happy. It's been a great day.
I know, it's a fun day, the book birthday, and it's kind of like a relief almost when you've passed that debut line and you're not a debuting potato anymore.
Yes, yeah, I think it's gonna be a relief to. I think I get through this week. Things will start to be as exciting as it is. There's a lot of tension and stress, and you want to do it the right way. And then debuting during COVID changed all of my plans, obviously. And,
definitely, expectations out the window. Definitely,
completely out the window. So I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with everything okay?
Yeah, I can just knock down my book.
Well, how did you come up with the concept for your book? I just love it. It's so unique, the potato mascot and everything.
Thanks. So I was watching a volleyball game and I saw the mascot, and it just kind of popped in my head, like, what if there was a book about a secret mascot? Because I love the secret identity stories, any story where a kid is like trying to juggle a double life, I think is really fun. And my husband suggested the potato initially because he knew of an actual potato mascot, and I really loved it. But I feel like I've told that story a lot. This is this part that I never ever talk about, is that I told my kids, I told my 7th grade students about my idea, and one of the students said, "Oh, like Hatching Pete." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, like the Disney movie Hatching Pete, about the kid who's secretly a mascot. And like the world just crashed around me, and I was like, my idea has been taken. Like, I think we all have felt that as authors, right? And I was so disappointed. And this is the part I don't tell. I didn't write the story for a long time because I thought, it's been done, I'm not gonna write it. And then finally one day I just decided, like, who cares? Like, I can write this story too, and I looked up, exactly. I looked up the story and I tried to make sure that it was different, and I made it work because I just knew it was going to be, a fun story regardless. So. Yeah,
I'm glad you did, because it's such an enjoyable book. I know my daughter did not stop laughing the whole time she was reading it. She camps out on our couch pretty much every day and has reading time, and she was cracking up from the living room all day. So,
oh man, that's the best to hear. That's awesome. Yeah, that's the goal. So.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And what was the process like for you after you had written it? How long, drafting and querying and submission? How long was all of that?
So that was one of the books that just kind of like flew out of me. I think I finished it in like 2 months, and then I revised it for like over a year, and I entered Pitch Wars with it, and that didn't work out. I didn't get an agent from Pitch Wars, but I think it was like about 6 months after Pitch Wars ended that I found my own agent through querying. And I was just gonna say, I had gotten like a ton of rejections, like more than I can even say without.
I think most of us have been through that. 6 months isn't bad though. 6 months is
definitely not bad. After Pitch Wars. So I think overall it was like a year and 6 months or something like that.
Well, I'm glad that your agent picked it up and that she found you a publisher, because I just enjoyed it so much. It's such a fun book to read, and I know it's just between my kids, and I teach creative writing to kids in that age range, and I haven't been around those kids since, but I do know like that they would love. they would love that. I teach for a homeschool program, and it's kind of set up like 2 days a week of school. And so I teach my youngest this year was 5 and my oldest was 14. And but I taught 4 different classes. They're not all in the same, So elementary and middle school basically is what I teach. They offer high school classes there, but I'm better with the littler ones. So
is this a program that is just specific to North Carolina, or is it all across the U.S.?
It's just specific to North Carolina, and Raleigh specifically. And the kids come and they meet twice a week, and they get to, do all the fun school things, but then do, their core academics at home at their own pace. And it's, it's a really nice balance for kids who need the social interaction, or moms who just need a break once or twice a week. So
I'm very interested in those kind of like hybrid homeschool / like community schooling.
Yeah.
Like I'm interested in that. That sounds really fun. And teaching creative writing, that is really fun.
It is. Kids are so creative.
That's the best part. Like that's the best part, is teaching creative writing and teaching literature.
Yes.
Teaching grammar isn't quite as fun usually.
I do teach a grammar class.
Well,
It is fun.
I do have to teach grammar too, but
I've tried to make it more fun. It's an introduction to grammar class that I call silly grammar. And so when we talk about what is a verb, we use the word fart, and the kids crack up, and, nouns are ninjas and dragons and things that kind of keep them interested. And I try.
That's a good idea.
To do. Today was actually our last day. We had to move to online classes like everyone else. And today was the last day of online classes. And then hopefully in the fall, we can actually go back to seeing each other. So being a wiggly little guy down there, huh? So you said you teach 7th grade, is that correct?
I taught 7th grade, yeah.
You taught, and you don't anymore?
No.
Full time with books and kids at this point?
Yeah, pretty much full time with kids, and then books like squeezed into the end of the day.
I understand. You got to make that time count. So what has been the best part about publishing for you?
Definitely just like the emails that you get from kids who enjoyed the book. I think, reaping the rewards is the best part, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just anytime you hear someone say, like how you said that your daughter loved it, like that's the best feeling in the world, and that's why we write, right? To entertain kids, and it's not about anything but that.
I understand, that feedback that you get from kids. And apparently Risa, who says my life as a potato was excellent, I recommend it. Everyone spend some time as a potato. I love it. Hearing positive feedback and getting positive reviews from kids and adults alike has been probably the highlight for me as well. So I can see how great that would be for you. And can I just say, I love your cover. It is so cute.
I was really I always imagined that it would be a kid in a potato costume, but I never thought to actually have a real potato image, photoshopped in. That was really creative.
It is very creative. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, James Glanz, I just love everything he does. He did all of the interior illustrations as well. And he also, I am 99% sure, but he illustrated for Max Einstein, that series. So he's
okay.
Yeah, he's just so good. I love all those things.
Yeah, it's great. That had to be such a cool experience for you to get to see those illustrations and the character that you created coming to life like that.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's always fun to see the illustrators kind of bring things to life in a way that you might have not imagined.
Yes, definitely. My cover is more abstract, but I did have some art done for the trailer that is more illustrated, that shows character details and things like that. Because my character's on my cover, but she's a shadow, right? But we'll see what the illustrator had done for the trailer, and like, oh, it looks like she looked in my head. That's so cool,
Yeah.
I think it's very a cool part about working as an author and bringing the artists into the whole thing. I think it's very cool. And we have Sarah joining us. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Well, thank you for joining us, Sarah. I'm so excited to have you. Yours is another book that I've had the chance to read and is over my head. I'm trying to point. Yay! I loved it. Another great book.
I love Potato. It's so good, and I can't wait to
I know,
read
I'm pretty probably saying we love Grace's Ghost.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, you haven't had a lot of chance to love it yet, but you will. You will. But yeah. So I loved your book, Sarah.
Thank you.
Libby is just I love her. I love Libby. She's so sweet. And having, so my oldest child has a growth hormone disorder. It's different than Turner's.
Wow.
But for our family, it's the closest to any kind of representation of anything that he's seen. So even if it's not identical, it's got enough of the dealing with growth issues and injections, and he had never seen anybody with his set of issues in a book before.
That's awesome.
So he was like, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm not the only one.
That's so great.
So I love how much publishing has shifted to try to focus on all types of people, all types of characters, and it's not just your typical protagonist that is cute and smart and has no problems, that I think maybe we saw a lot more of during our own childhoods, and now I think we're I like the shift that's happening in publishing, and we're seeing all sorts of people, and I love it.
Agreed. Well, and that's really cool, because I always obviously I had girls with Turner syndrome in mind when I wrote this, but so that's really awesome to hear about a young boy who connected with you. That's great.
Yeah. I, even as a parent who deals with a kind of parallel sort of similar issue, didn't know a whole lot about Turner's, and so reading it for me, when I started reading it and went, oh, Keegan, you're gonna feel this. You're gonna, it's not all the same, but there's enough here where you're gonna feel like this. If Libby talked to my son, they would have some things they both understood. So,
I love it.
It was really, really neat.
I think I'm going to pop back in for the Q&A if that's okay. I'm going to go get him some snacks. So
okay, all right.
What time is the Q&A again?
At 6:15.
15 minutes.
6:15. Oh, okay. Then yeah. Okay.
You're right, snack time there.
It's good to see you, Arianne. Yay!
So I know that your own life with Turner's definitely affected your choice to write this particular story, but is there anything else that inspired you with a particular storyline or things about Libby that are different than you? Or
that's a really good question. Like you said, definitely I wanted to write a story about Turner's. That never seen that. But the other aspect that kind of came later was Libby's interest in science, and I had a lot of fun researching women from science history who didn't kind of ever get the acknowledgments that they probably deserved and stuff like that. Right. So I think that also really helped.
I love that aspect.
Yeah, I also really love earnest characters. So I wanted like that the plot and the like storylines and everything, that's always the hardest part for me. But Libby was in my head for a long time, and like I could hear her voice very clearly and like knew the kind of person that she was and stuff like that. But and everyone, people who know me who've read this, they're like, oh my gosh, she's so you. And I on like some levels, yes. Like we're both pretty exuberant, positive people. But
Right.
I think she's even nicer than I am. But yeah.
That's awesome. And I can definitely understand that. I think I've had stories come to me both ways, where either sometimes it's a character and sometimes it's a plot. But Grace's Ghost was definitely a character one for me, where this little girl was in my head, you know, had to get her out. So I can definitely understand that concept of just having someone in your mind that you have to put on paper, which is a really weird concept. But
we're writers here. We get it. We hear voices.
All the time, yes.
Yeah.
You tell me what to do. Is that wrong?
Yeah. Not when you're a writer.
Good. I've got an excuse.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest part of the whole process for you? From drafting to publishing to anything in between?
Oh man, that is a good question. Here's the thing is, I've had a lot harder time with other books than this one. This one was kind of my nice book. It felt like it was supposed to be. It was just a relief to write it, and probably the hard part was waiting while I was querying. Querying agents was probably the hardest part, and I even like. The querying took me about a year, if I'm remembering correctly. I have a terrible memory, but I think it was about a year. But then it ended up going really well. So that process ended well, but I'm just, the whole months I was querying, I was like, ah.
That is so stressful. Querying is stressful, and submission is stressful. All of it. Just there's so much waiting, and you can, and with the different agents, you can get a response in 2 minutes, or it can be 6 months, and you just don't know what's happening. And it's stressful.
I ended up, so the agent I signed with, I queried her she was one of the first ones I queried. But it took her, I didn't sign with her until a year later. So even that, like it's all processed. And I actually, because I went through, I did a pretty heavy revision after I'd queried her. So I did actually end up sending her a revised in the middle of that. So, but yeah, it's a long process and can be very draining emotionally.
Yes, it definitely can. Well, I'm glad that you stuck with it, because you brought such a special book into the world. Did you want to do a reading from it?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. I picked a little bit from, it's not the first chapter, but it's towards the beginning. And it's the chapter called "A Shot a Day Makes the Doctor Say Yay." So, not many 12-year-old girls have to give themselves shots every day, but really it's not bad at all. Sometimes Turner syndrome messes with your heart. It messes with mine pretty good. Sometimes Turner syndrome messes with your thyroid or your kidneys. Mine, so far, so good. But there are two things that Turner syndrome always does. One, Turner syndrome means you can't have babies of your own. Nani's taking care of that one for our family, and I don't need to think about that one right now anyway, right? Turner syndrome means you don't grow to a normal height. Not on your own anyway. But there's special medicine called growth hormone, and if you give yourself a shot of that stuff every day for a while, you can do a pretty fine job with the whole growing thing. I'm already over 5 feet tall. With the shots, I'd barely pass 4. Without the shots, I'd barely pass 4. I'm pretty lucky, actually. Since my doctors figured out about my Turner syndrome stuff soon after I was born, that meant I got to start shots early and do plenty of growing. Sometimes girls with Turner syndrome don't find out until it's too late for the shots. The needles don't scare me. They're small. My bedtime supplies aren't that different from everyone else's. Toothbrush, pajamas, needle. Check, check, check. Mom used to give me the shots. Then I told her I wanted to learn how to do it on my own. And after she taught me, I did it in one try, in one shot. Haha. Easy as brushing your teeth. Okay, sometimes mom still helps me with my shots if I'm doing the shot in a place I can't reach, like my shoulder or my gluteus maximus, which is a noun meaning butt. My big, tough, blowtorch-wielding brother-in-law Thomas can work with flames and dangerous buzzing tools inches from his face, no problem. But needles? Total heebie-jeebies. It still makes me laugh when I think about his face the first time he saw me do my shots. The thing is, though, shots don't make me feel brave because they're not even scary. It's only medicine. A little pinch. Done. For other people, maybe shots are scary. Thomas once told me if he's around needles, it's hard for him to be brave. But then he doesn't need to be brave about talking to new people and making friends. Even at a really hard job, the annoying people he works with end up his friends, and grumpy old bosses turn out to like him a lot. I remember once when he visited and we went out as a family, he talked to the waiter at our table and the ticket taker at the movie theater like they'd known each other all their lives, like they're best friends. I don't know how he does that. Nani says when he asked her out for the first time, he wasn't shy or awkward at all. If a boy ever asked me on a date, when I'm 42, like Dad says, I would definitely need to be brave. Even lab partners give me butterflies. It's not that I'm shy. I'm really not. I get A's on all my class presentations, and I think doing high school drama will be really fun. Talking to people isn't the hard part. It's that I can never tell what people think is the wrong thing to say until after I've said it. Like asking Miss Trepke about homework that isn't due for more than 6 months, or telling a teacher about my bestie, the library. Me trying to figure out who to talk to at a birthday party? I'd rather stick a needle in my butt. There we go.
I love it so much. I do.
Oh, thank you.
It's such a good story.
Thank you.
I love your character. Sometimes there are characters who you just it might be the mom and me, but I just want to love on Libby. Like I
okay.
She feels so real. She feels so real.
Oh,
so you did a great job with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I know what your title means, but can you tell the audience what your title means?
Sure. Yeah. So the title is "What Stars Are Made Of," and I picked that for the title because it kind of has two meanings. First of all, she does a science project about Cecilia Payne, who is the woman who literally discovered what stars are made of. But also throughout the story, what Libby discovers is that she is what stars are made of, and that everybody is, and that everyone is made of stardust, and that's kind of what makes everyone important and special. So, yeah,
I love it. It's a great title, and your cover is. I love your cover.
Oh my gosh, me too. It is. Oh my gosh, the amazing Alyssa Coburn did the cover, and when I saw it, I about died. I was like, oh,
I can imagine. Yeah, it is just such an awesome cover.
I felt very lucky.
I have been really impressed with all of the covers everyone here tonight has. They're great. I think there are a lot of very talented cover artists out there. So
I think middle grade is going through a really good period of some like really, really top-notch covers.
I agree completely. I think in general, middle grade is having kind of a moment. There are so many great books being written right now. I feel just honored to even be able to like edge my way into this world of these amazing books.
That's so true.
I am just so impressed with I think all of publishing right now. Really, it's a really great time to be part of things, and
despite all the weirdness, I think you're right. It really is. Like it's a pretty good time.
It's a strange industry and it's a strange time, but the way that I have seen authors and different people in publishing, from librarians to booksellers to everyone, has just come together in this weird moment in time, and they're working together so well. And I just think that as much as, I wouldn't have picked debuting during a pandemic, I am happy that I have been able to connect with so many very cool people because of the technology that allows us to do this, and because we've been kind of forced into using it, I think I've made some connections that I might not have. So that's been kind
Absolutely. I would say the same. I've, had opportunities, even though we're losing some opportunities, I've also had others come up that might not have happened otherwise. So
definitely. And what was your debut day? How long has your book been out now?
Actually, today is 1 month. So March 31st. So
that's really exciting, a month. So yeah, you definitely were right in the middle of all the chaos. Trying to remember how long ago you didn't get a safe to go outside window either.
I know, that's been honestly, like, I was really sad to cancel my launch events, but I also still haven't been able to like go to find my book at bookstores and like sign it. And I'm so excited to finally be able to do that.
Yes, that all of that would be those are the things you dream about, right? When you
exactly
being able to see your book on a shelf somewhere. I know. I was looking at the Barnes and Noble listing for my book, and they don't want to stay today. And it was like, find it in a store. And I'm like, well, but I can't go to a store. It was just one of those things. I'm like, in theory, my book should be in stores, but there are no stores to go to right now.
Yeah.
So it's been a weird experience. I'm going to add SG back into the stream here. And for everyone watching, now is the time that we're going to be taking your questions. So if you ask a question in the comments, I will put it up on the screen and we will answer. So let's see.
Just scroll through here. I wonder if there's...
Yeah, there might be some further back.
There's a lot of nice words.
There are a lot of very nice things. So hello, we can hear you. I'm not seeing questions. I know you're watching. There's people watching. Somebody's going to have a question. I can see the count up there. Let's see.
I mean, I would love to know what you two are working on right now. Like, how, like, are you writing during this whole isolation thing, or?
I have a project that
basically.
I have a project that I manage like a couple hundred words a day instead of my typical couple thousand words a day I write. I don't get nearly as much done, but at least I'm trying to keep my brain in it because I love the story. But it's. Hi, Arianne. What about anybody else having better luck writing right now?
Yeah, I've been working on a lot of poetry, which has been fun, and it's much easier to have your focus only need to take up this much space instead of novel length space. So that's been good.
Yeah, I can see that. That might be a little easier right now. Cheryl is joining us.
Oh, great.
So yes, most of the group back. Yay. Oh, and we do have, okay, let me put this up here. Go shirt, thank you. Can we get a recap of yours for those of us joining late? Yes. This is right back. Okay, baby problems. This is Grace's Ghosts. It is about a girl who lives in a very haunted town. Thousands of ghosts live there, but she's the only one who can see them. So that is my recap. I would love any other audience questions. That would be awesome. But otherwise, we can go back to talking about what is everyone working on right now. Does anybody else have a good project going?
I've been working on book 2 of my book, this series. So finalizing the edits and that sort of thing, but it's not final as I would like. So, interesting. They canceled. I got a little more wiggle room because they canceled doing a physical art. So that was kind of interesting. There's that may have bought me a little bit of extra time. So strange pros and cons to this, just like you were talking about. Sarah, sort of an odd little opportunity I got from this whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. That, I mean, while it might not be how you wanted things to go, more
exactly.
time is a good thing, right? We have Anne asking, do you work on multiple projects at a time? Anyone? I do. I write middle grade mostly, but I write some picture books, and sometimes I get a picture book idea and you can get a rough draft out really quickly. Now the editing takes forever on a picture book, but if I get an idea while I'm writing middle grade, I might step aside and just write out a rough draft and then go back to it when I'm done writing my first draft of my middle grade. I don't know about anyone else.
Sarah and I have been swapping picture books, so I know that we're both, I guess, working on multiple things.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to work on 2 novels at once, though. I've tried that before, and it's hard. But I love working on a novel and then like smaller projects like poetry or picture books.
Yeah. I'm definitely that way.
If you ever want a picture book critique partner, we could.
Now I know I've got some picture book friends.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I have a few of those going right now. But yeah, I definitely can't do 2 novels at once. I know when I was writing the book that my agent is currently has on submission for me, it's called Glitch. When I got edits back on Grace's Ghosts, and I tried to like work for a little bit of time on one and then go back to the other, on a daily basis. I just had to put Glitch aside completely to finish the editing on Grace's Ghosts, because I would, one is written in past tense, the other is written present, and I would start like switching, and I just had to say, nope, I'm done. I'm done for right now.
Right.
So,
can you tell us what Glitch is about, or is that still under wraps?
I don't know. Are we supposed to talk about projects on submission or not? But I can say that I will give the very short version of that. It is about a boy who has epilepsy, very severe epilepsy, and he moves to Colorado to use medical marijuana for his epilepsy. And before he can start treatment, he is playing a video game with a friend and gets pulled into the video game world. And in the video game world, he does not have seizures. And so he has to make a choice if he goes back into the real world and tries a new treatment to try to make his seizure stop, or stays in the video game world and gives up his family and friends.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's hope a publisher thinks so too sometime soon. Fingers crossed. We have, let's see. Is anyone drawing inspiration from what's going on in the world right now?
So Arianne mentioned picture books. I turned in a picture book about what's happening right now to my agent a few weeks ago that I'm waiting to hear from her on. Okay. But at the same time, I saw someone like on Twitter or something talking about how they never want to read anything about what's going on right now. And I kind of like, a picture book length is about as much as I want to do. Because she was like, did anyone in the Spanish flu in the early 1900s actually want to read about the Spanish? And I'm like, no, probably not. I don't want to. Like, I'm sure there will be lots of books about this, but I'm going to need a lot of space before I'm ready to do anything more than like picture book length.
I could definitely, I've thought about it. I have a few lines that would be a picture book in my head that keep like repeating in my mind, and I just can't emotionally go there. I don't know if I will do it or not. And I think too, there's going to be that kind of a feeling, but also that maybe children will need those kinds of books to process it when it's over. So,
Even just metaphorically, what you were saying about Glitch almost sounds like what my kids will maybe have to deal with when we have to de-escalate the screen time.
Yeah.
I have been predicting that dystopian is going to come back hard. So it's been a while. I think the last big dystopian was what, Maze Runner, like big one anyway. Yeah. So I don't know.
I can see that. I can see that. We have Me Vs the Multiverse sounds so cool. We didn't get to hear a sample read of it, but I'd love to. There was, but if
Yeah.
Will this be will this be available?
This is being recorded. It will be on the my YouTube page. So the same link. Just I think it takes a few minutes to save, and then it will be here, so you can go back and read that. But
thanks for asking.
She gave a great reading, and I'm very excited to read the whole thing.
Yeah,
well, it was a really good reading. It sounds so fun. It was so great.
All right, well, same with you, all yours. I've seen your book over the past few months, on our group. And it's also great to see you all in person. So.
Yeah, it's cool to see all of the your whole faces instead of just a little circle.
Circle.
It's kind of nice to hear your voices and see who everyone actually is. It's a very cool experience for me after we've all been through it for a long time, sharing these experiences together. Let's see. What are your favorite books? What inspired you to start writing? Anyone wants to start?
I mean, I can start. The book that I've always loved middle grade, and I can talk. There's the books that I read growing up, like Ramona and The Great Brain, and I loved those. But the book that I read as an adult that I was like, oh yeah, middle grade is the best one, was Wednesday Wars by Gary Schmidt.
I love that one.
Yeah, the middle grade is where I want to live. It's where I want to be, and he is showing me how it's done. So I kind of was wanting to write in the Gary Schmidt vein. So
that's very cool.
Very, very high recommendation. All of his books.
I love Gordon Corman books, so I get a lot of inspiration from that. And then also Louis Sachar. How do you say his name?
Yeah,
he's great.
I didn't know that, but yeah.
Dusty Bowling, also the insignificant books in the life of a cactus.
I just read that one. They're so good.
I wish I had a paper and pen so I could start taking it down. I need to read that. Just go back and rewatch to know. I have always loved books, and some of my earliest memories. My parents used to have there were these big built-in drawers at the top of our steps in the house I grew up in, and they were just filled with books. And I mean, they're mostly from garage sales, but I just remember going up to open this big, and I'm probably remembering the size wrong because I was tiny and my parents no longer lived in that house. I would love to see the drawers again, but they seemed like it was just endless drawer of books, and I would sit there and sort through them and read them. And I remember realizing that somebody wrote those books and that was their job, and someone gets to do that. Can that be me, please? You get to make books. There's grown-ups who make books, and that's their job. And I from that moment on, that's what I wanted to do.
I remember in first grade or something, there was a PBS. They were showing us some PBS program where a guy would read a book while he was drawing an illustration from it, and he did a Wizard of Earthsea, and he drew this really beautiful dragon in this really cool, intricate way as he's reading the book. So I just remember being really enthralled by that and checking the book myself, which was even better than this, lived up to the experience. I think that's what kind of got me hooked.
Very cool.
I have to ask, when does Me Versus the Multiverse come out?
Oh, it's August 4th.
August 4th, okay.
Here in August.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here.
So many great books coming out. My kids are being so spoiled because every one of the middle grade books that comes out, I really want to buy all of them, and I have bought. They're getting so many more great books that they don't really do. And I'm like, I have to support all of my author friends. You guys get unlimited books. It's a good thing they all love to read. But
that's what I did on like, since I couldn't go anywhere to celebrate my release day, I was like, all right, I'm ordering like 12 middle grade books from my, that's what I'm going to celebrate.
That's awesome. That's a great way to spend your release day. That would have made me happy. I wish I had that idea. I still have time.
Yeah.
So to order some things. I've got most of the books, the Roaring 20s middle grade books on pre-order. So
wow.
That's good.
Yeah. Yay for middle grade. Yes. I think so. I think it hits that sweet spot.
Yeah.
I think
middle grade is what gets those reluctant readers reading.
Yes.
Those kids who have the skills, but I was a reading specialist for many, many years, and my job was to get these kids reading and have them see themselves as readers. And so it's the middle grade that I just love so much.
Speaking of books I loved as a kid, Cheryl, yours was giving me Richard Peck vibes, like Long Way from Chicago a little bit. Like, love those.
I loved as a kid. Well, great. That's a
great compliment.
And I'm close to being finished with the sequel, so
yay!
That's exciting. Do you have a publication date for the sequel?
No, not yet.
Okay, but that's exciting.
We're almost finished with that first draft, which is the hardest part. I love revision, but it's that getting it down that first time, beginning to end. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
But Stephenie, I'm so excited for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been kind of surreal. After he worked for so long and it really happened. I kept worrying that maybe it would end up pushed because of COVID. I've heard so many publishers doing that. In some ways, I could understand. You could actually have your events maybe if you waited, but I didn't want to wait, and I was so glad they did it.
We'll be ready for the fall. We'll be ready for the fall. We will be ready for the fall in school.
I'll be ready for the fall. And my book, I mean, who doesn't love a ghost story in the fall, right?
That's
It'd be great.
Yeah.
I have had such a great time with all of you, and I'm so glad you joined me for this broadcast. And thank you to everyone who came and watched. If you have any last words you'd like to say, now's your chance.
Readers are awesome. You're the best.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Support your local bookstore.
And I've ordered the book. I can't wait to get it. So.
Oh, well, that's so exciting. Well, thank you.
SGs, so.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this, Stephenie. This was an awesome idea.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, bye, everyone.
Bye. You're the best.